I am an author, and we're still waiting, it looks like, on another class. Is that right?
No.
No, just you guys. Oh, well, then we can get started. Okay. I'm a writer, and I've published several books that I'm going to show you in just a second. I'm setting these up because I want to tell you a little bit about the process I go through. But before I start that, I'm going to show you the books. My name is Christina Hergenrader, and I write books for young adults, which is teenagers, and for moms. And I'm going to show you some of the books that I have here. So these are my first 4 books that were published. These were published about 16 years ago was the first one, and I've published throughout those last 16 years, every couple of years. I also have 4 kids. We have Katie, she's 12, and then we have twins that are in the 3rd grade, and their names are Sam and Elizabeth, and we have a 1st grader, and his name is Nate. They don't go to school here, but Katie used to go to school here. She had Mrs. Milford. Sure. So my first book is called Lies and Deceptions, and these were all books in a series. And then I had this one called Temptations. And then I have this one called Double Shift. And then Dangerous Roads. And these were all in a series, and these are all fiction books. Now, after that, I wrote some nonfiction books. This one is called God Loves Moms. It's about moms in the Bible. And that's a nonfiction book. And then this one, have you guys written a personal narrative in 3rd grade?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of like a story, a book of 40 personal narratives about the 10 Commandments. But just like your personal narratives, they're all written in what? 1st, 2nd, or 3rd person? Okay, well then never mind. These are written in 1st person. So a personal narrative for me, I was telling stories about how stories about me and my friends and how we struggled with different things. And that's my picture on the back, and that's part of the cool thing about being an author is sometimes you get your picture on the back of the book. And then I wrote a devotional book called Starring Roles. And then I wrote this book, and this is my newest release. It's out in April, and it's called Last Summer at Eden, and it's for teenagers. It's about a camp where a girl they're going to close the camp. That's why it's called Last Summer at Eden. So they want to close the camp, and she has to fight for it. And throughout the book, all kinds of things happen. But in the end, it's a happy ending, I'll tell you that. So what I want to do today is I want to share with you a little bit about the process that I go through to get a book published, so you can kind of understand as a writer what I do. Can you see my shirt here? Do you see what it says?
The story rules.
Okay, and why do you think as an author I would put that on my shirt? Yeah?
You have a book called?
That's a good guess. Because I tell stories all day, whether they're personal narratives that happen to me, or whether they're a story about a camp, or if it's a story about something that happened, like even a nonfiction story, like about what happened to a woman in the Bible. Those are all stories. And so I say the story rules because that's what my job is. How many of you like to tell stories? I bet a lot of you do. I have 2 3rd graders, and I know they like to tell stories. How many of you like to read stories? Or your teacher reads to you? Doesn't that feel nice when they describe something in a book and you can picture it in your mind? Well, that's what I try to do as a writer. So I'm going to tell you about this book, the process I went through. I put these up here because these are the storyboards that I use in order to write Last Summer at Eden. And what happened for me was, when I was in 3rd grade, I went to a camp called Camp Lone Star, which is in LaGrange, Texas, and I really loved that experience. Raise your hand if you've been to camp before. Camp Pine Cove, or maybe you've been to, there's all kinds of Boy Scout camps or Girl Scout camps. I loved living in cabins with other people. I loved the bad food. I loved sitting around campfires. I loved everything about camp, and I thought, I want to write a story about that my whole life. Then I went and was a camp counselor, and I loved that. And then I was worked at a camp a little bit after that, and I loved it. So I told myself I wanted to write a story. So what I started to do is I started to find inspiration for this book. And I put some of these poster boards around the room because I wanted you to see how I plot out the story. What I did is I started to plot out what was going to happen to my characters, because the main part of telling a story is having a conflict and having characters that have to deal with a conflict. The conflict in Last Summer at Eden is that they want to close the camp, and the heroine, who's the one that's like the protagonist, the heroine, the main character. This is pictures of her. She wants to save the camp. And so because she wants to save it, she's got a problem because all these people are trying to close it. So I found all these pictures in magazines, and then I wrote down what was going to happen to each character and how they would have kind of an arc. And I got it all organized in my mind and had all this inspiration set up. And I asked my publisher, would you buy a book about a camp? And they said, sure, you have 9 months to write it. And I said, okay. So I started to write it, and I used my schedule here to figure out what would happen to the characters. But even though I love stories, I love to read them, and I love to write them, I found it very hard to write. Every day I find it hard to write. How many of you guys sometimes have like a blank when it's time for you to write something? That happens to me too. I find a lot of times what happens is I sit down to write, and it's so much pressure, there's so much I want to say, that my mind kind of freezes up and I can't think of anything to say. And so I have some tricks. One of them is to have done all this work beforehand. How many of you, when you write your essays, do like pre-writing or brainstorming or outlining? Does your teacher have you do some pre-writing stuff?
Everybody's hand should be what you're doing this week.
This is my pre-writing. I do all this pre-writing, so when I get stuck, I can look back on my notes and say, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot, I was so excited, and I found that good picture that showed whatever, the camp, or I found these kids playing picture and I wanted to show that. So I do all those things, and then for about 6 months, I write and write and write, and then I do what I bet you guys do a lot too. After I finish writing, who can guess what I have to do then for a long time? Yes? Edit. And I edit so much. If I spend this much time writing, I spend twice that much editing. If your teacher seems to be telling you over and over, read it again, now meet with a friend and have them read it. Now I'm going to read it and hand it back to you, and now you're going to do a rough draft. And it seems like a lot. I can tell you as an author, I do that. Probably wrote the book 50 times, editing it, and then sending it off to my editor. And my editor came back just like your teacher would, with another solid month of make these corrections, take this scene out, put this in, a lot of writing. Then, after that, they send it to a lot of different people. Still, actually, even though this is the cover, they just sent this to me so I could share it with you. Actually, the book is blank because they're not finished with the editing. Still, more and more people are making little tiny changes. And finally, when it's all done, they send it to a copy editor. And that copy editor finds any little thing in there that's wrong. You have a question?
Are all of the books that you think, are all of those pages done?
No. All these are really published books. This one's out on April 11th, and so because of that, I said, you know, I want to show everyone the cover. And they said, okay, we'll send you a cover, and we'll make it look like a book for you, but it's not done. We can't publish it yet. So actually, that's part of the really exciting part of the process, is that for an author, after you've worked so hard, one day, the doorbell rings, and we open it up, and it's the UPS guy, and he says, here's a box, and we open it up, and it's this, except for it really is a book. And that is like a home run day when you're playing baseball. Like, wow, this is what I've been working on so hard. So it's really exciting. We haven't gotten to that day on this book. It'll come sometime in the next couple months, and it's really exciting. And then after that, as an author, I'm responsible for a whole lot of promotion. So now I'm just getting into the part where I am really telling everyone about the book and doing all kinds of things, speaking in a lot of groups and saying, here's what the story is, will you please buy the book? And that's a really fun part of being a writer. I have another book due in May, so I'm also right now writing that book, and that is a book about, it's a nonfiction book about how to get along with your family. So being a writer is a lot of time at home. It's a really quiet career, but let me tell you, it's very busy because it means that to keep publishing books, you have to be working all the time. This book I'm really excited about because I've done all this research. It started as just a little idea in my mind, and now I finally get to see it come out in the next couple of months. So this is a really exciting time for me. I think we have a few minutes. If you have questions, can you raise your hand and I'll answer some questions before you guys have to go? Yeah?
How old were you when you wanted to start to be an author?
I'm so glad you asked that. I wanted to be an author since I was like in 3rd grade, and I wrote stories and read stories, and sometimes I didn't love writing, but I always liked the idea of stories. What I did is I went to undergrad to become a English teacher. I was an English teacher. In fact, I wrote my first 4 books for my students. They're dedicated to my students. And I read them a chapter a day. Then I got my master's degree, and that was in creative writing from University of Houston. And then I sent my book off to several publishers, lots and lots of publishers. Found a publisher, and it's the publisher I've stayed with for almost 20 years, so I really like them a lot. So yeah.
What's your favorite book that you wrote?
That's a really good question. I think that it's kind of like asking your mom which is your favorite kid. Like I like them all so much because I wrote them and really know them so well. But this book right here that is coming out, I think has got to be my favorite because it has this story I wanted to tell since I was your age. I really love camp, and I really wanted to share with the world like all the silly things about camp. And I feel like I did that, and so I know there's going to be a community of people that like camp or like love stories that really like it. So I'm excited. It's going to be a fun release. Sometimes when I write like books about the Bible, I have to tell people what to do. Not really, but like this is what you should do. And so when I speak, I'm like telling them, here's how you should be living. But on this one, it's just fun. So that's good. Are there other questions? Okay. Well, good. So how many of you guys love reading? How many of you could see yourself writing stories or being an author one day? Put both hands up. Anyone? Okay. My encouragement to you is to keep reading all the time and to keep practicing writing. Sometimes for your teacher, sometimes for your friends, sometimes for your parents, and sometimes just for yourself. But it's something you don't need any tools for, just a pen and paper or an iPad or a computer. And the practice is great because we need good stories and we need writers, and any of you could become a writer. It's just a matter of being able to tell stories, and we can all do that, right? Okay, good, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys have a fun day the rest of the day.